Hello, how's everybody doing? It's March 17th, 2026, and this video I'll be going over the state of the markets, what to expect, what to look for, these stock, commodities, oil, and all that good stuff. Good news is that crypto's breaking out, and I'll be also going over what to look for and when to expect, what to anticipate. All right. So, first things first, let's see what the headlines are saying. Let's go over to investing.com. And if you could see, most of the headlines is mostly about oil, oil, oil. Yeah, we have some other stuff about gold and whatever else, but most of the headlines is oil. Okay, so and the reason why that is because there's still strike, guys. Like this is the war is still continuing. They're still putting airstrikes. They're still shooting down drones. Even right here, this is on this article. This is day 17th, Israeli and U.S. attack. Right. Right here, it says that Iran, Israel announced the launch of new wave of strikes. In the Gulf, we have Dubai reports erupt drone-related incidents, and also Saudi Arabia is intercepting drones. So at the end of the day, they're still attacking. There's still war. There's no sign of the war slowing down. It hasn't slowed down at all. It's, if anything, it's continuing to more intense, right? And the reason why this is a big deal is because eventually global markets understand how Iran war could be can affect the global market. At the end of the day, the governments know this, but if the war continues, it's going to affect the global economy. And if the global economy starts to dwindle, they're going to intervene. They're not just going to sit back and just let this happen. They're going to have to do something because the people in those governments are going to start to get uncomfortable and they're going to want to demand change. And I know everybody's been saying or seeing these tweets and seeing Trump asking for help, asking their allies, like, hey, like, come step in. Of course, there's this thing where they're all saying no. And also, Trump's been bullying them. So it's like, of course, I'm going to say no. But at the end of the day, guys, if the oil is going to keep going up, inflation is going to keep going up for all these economies. Economies are going to suffer. Like it or not, even though they're saying no and they don't want to intervene, if this keeps going, they're gonna have to intervene. They're gonna have to. Let's see how that plays out. Let's see how that looks like. And also, it doesn't help that, and another sign showing how it's not looking good is that United States actually lifted its sanctions on Russia, which is not good, guys. It's not good for the Ukraine war. Russia's now selling their oil at a premium because oil's prices are going higher. And it's just not looking good for any economy right now, period. When we look at oil, it's right now where we might get that pump up to take its all-time high, or not this all-time high, this current high. And look, I am a structure-based trader. So let's zoom out and see what is the structure. So right now with oil, what happened? We had a boom, 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 and break right here. This is our break, not this is our low. So let's zoom in. Since now we're in bullish structure on the weekly, let's zoom in on the daily. What's going on? Whoops, sorry about that. Now we're zoomed in on the daily. Now let's go into the 4-hour to get a better understanding what's going on here. So this is our high, now this is our low. Our structure currently is looking like this. Inside this internal high, right? This internal structure is just down, up. So now our range currently, this is our current range. Oil is currently trading in the discount section of the range. We're almost going to get to the 50%. And let's turn on the 50 EMA, right? We are currently finding support on the 50. Look, even if we break underneath this low and we start getting under the 50, this is the current range. As long as we stay above this low of $76, we are still in bullish structure. So oil can easily start consolidating here, or we could go up here, come down. As long as these two levels don't get broken out of, we are still in a bullish structure, okay? So it makes sense why oil's holding out here, likely to maybe touch the 50 EMA and then bounce up and take its high. If the war continues, oil, it's going to take its high. And if oil takes its high, then it's not going to look good for inflation, period. It's not going to look for the economy. It's not going to look good for anybody else. So in my previous video, I was really trying to hammer home to you guys that to not listen to the headlines. The only thing you should be listening to is the charts, the economic data, or articles where it has real backed economists speaking about their sentiment or what their projections are. Do not listen to these politicians, because these politicians just be talking about dumb shit. Like
There's a reason why we
listen to
shouldn't be the only The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that. Now, there's a reason why.
No shit, Sherlock. What the fuck kind of saying is that? Oh, the strait could be open if Iran's not striking. Yeah, no shit. Well, maybe this shit will never be closed if we never struck for Israel in the first place. You see, it's just dumb shit. They're not like they're just speaking out their mouths. They're just not like saying anything of substance. Moving forward to gold. So gold is just consolidating sideways in this range that we've been looking at for the past 2 weeks, right? And look, don't be too discouraged about gold. As long as the war is continuing, gold is going to have its day, right? And later on in the video, I'm going to be going over the carry trade, and that will fuel gold's movement upwards too. But if you want some, I guess, hopium, which is not hopium, this is real. This is real data. China is still buying. Central banks are also still buying. So gold is gonna consolidate sideways. Just be patient. As long as we stay in this range, we are still in a bullish structure. We could break underneath this 4.8 thousand, and we will still be able to anticipate higher prices on gold. As long as we don't get underneath 4.4k, then we're all good. And right now we are hitting the 50 EMA. We could easily start consolidating here and then start blowing up and making new all-time highs. Same thing goes for silver. When we look at silver, we are almost getting into our last order block. Look, we are still in huge discount in the range. Same thing with gold. As long as we stay above $64, we are still in bullish structure, okay? I will be looking for a long once we tap here. You could start DCAing into the zone, but at the end of the day, I do believe silver is gonna recover this vector. It's gonna recover this vector before we start rolling over. That is my prediction. I'm not a financial advisor, but that is what I am anticipating, okay? So as long as the war's going, gold and silver is all good, okay? The main thing, don't worry too much about gold and silver. They are gonna have their day, okay? The really thing that's a really big red flag about all this is the oil prices, okay? If oil is going to keep continuing higher, then like I said, all the economies in the world are going to suffer. Their inflation is going to go up. Inflation in all over the world is going to keep rising. And we have many economies currently that are struggling with their inflation, especially with us, since we're trying to cut rates. And one of the big factors that the Fed needs to cut the rates is inflation to go down. Japan, the carry trade, they also need their inflation to go down, okay? And when we look over at the Fed watch, since all this is happening, we are for sure not getting rate cuts, okay? And then when we look at the future dates, we are, wow, this is the first time I'm seeing this. Before we didn't get this. There's even now, it's starting to change where they might even think about raising interest rates. That would be very tragic. So on April, we're not getting no cuts. June, most likely, damn, yeah, I have not seen this. And earlier in the morning when I was getting all this together, I did not see this. This is actually updated. So now there's even people starting to anticipate that we might raise interest rates, which will be terrible for the markets, period. Tomorrow we have a lot of data coming out, but all this is not really important. What's more important is the FOMC statement. So I'm really interested to see what Jerome Powell is going to say. We are anticipating that they're not going to cut, and now with the new Fed watch that you just saw previously, that they might even raise interest rates, then the dollar is going to continue with this move higher. Right now, the dollar is on its way to go higher, okay? And what does that affect? Which in turn will cause Japan to do what? Forex intervention. They can't sustain the dollar continuing higher because the yen currently is already in its forex intervention levels, which is really bad. We're already at the extreme of the forex intervention levels. And previously, when Japan did its forex intervention, it was back here, back in April, March. And when we go back to the dollar and see when they did the intervention, it was back here. The dollar had a huge move down. It was a 5% down move. But either way, that means if we are anticipating that they are going to intervene, the dollar is going to have its dump. And you might be wondering, why does this matter? If the dollar is going to keep going on its move higher and they're going to keep holding interest rates, then the investors are going to want to offload on their stocks, on their high risk assets, because if the dollar is appreciating in value, then when they sell their stocks, they're going to gain more purchasing power for what? For the upcoming intervention. And if you remember, I think it was last year when they intervened, or last time when Japan raised their interest. This was not the intervention, but the last time when Japan raised their interest last year, $2 trillion got wiped from the market. And remember, guys, keep it in mind, when prices are rising, they are selling, they're not buying. Okay, it's the opposite, right? So if they are going to do forex intervention and investors are anticipating this move to happen and it's going to dump the dollar, if then it makes a lot more sense to start offloading on your stocks, on your high risk assets when your dollar is appreciating in value. Okay, so if the once the intervention happens, the dollar will dump, stocks will drop, and gold and commodities were actually raised, because if the dollar is gonna dump on its value, that means the yields won't be as higher. And the reason why right now gold and silver is holding because of the war tensions. But if there was no war tensions right now, then gold and silver will actually be on the move lower, because gold is a zero yielding asset. But when the dollar has high interest rates, investors like to park their money into dollars. That's why when they raise interest rates, the dollar goes up, because people want to gather that yield, right? So if the forex intervention happens and the yield drops, then people will get out of their dollars and start going into gold. So once the forex intervention, that's when gold and silver are probably going to get that huge pop. And especially if the war is still going on, oh yeah, it's going to blow out of its all-time high, easy. And when we start looking at NASDAQ, you can see on, this is a weekly time frame, you can see that the volume it's rising, and especially on the down days, the volume is way more above than average, and this correlates with the idea that investors are starting to offload, getting ready for the intervention, getting ready for the interest rates. Because again, like I said, I want to beat this into your mind. Why would I sell when the dollar is going to eventually in the future depreciate, right? It's the best time to sell is right now when the dollar is above 100, because I have more purchasing power. So when the rate happens and the intervention, or either or happens, I don't have to spend as many dollars to pick up stocks, NASDAQ, or anything else. Okay, if I'm going with that logic, I am anticipating that possibly NASDAQ can continue higher, because we had a sweep of liquidity and we can come recover this vector and this vector. But again, don't see it as, oh, we are investors are buying for all-time highs, because the intervention is going to happen. It's bound to happen, right? So this is a perfect time to unload on your stocks. They are selling, they are not buying, they are selling into retail, they're selling into you. Going over to the VIX, we are now slowly breaking down lower, which is fine. But if we're going with the idea, what I'm saying, I could see the VIX going down to the 50, maybe come down here. But at the end of the day, it's going to keep this upward move, and it's likely going to come down to the 50 and now come recover all these recovery zones up here. This is going to be the last time I'm going to bring it up. I've been repeating it and trying to beat it into you guys' mind. If I am a big investor, it makes sense for me, with all this news and all these upcoming events that is bound to happen. It's not even a maybe now. It's going to happen. Okay. It makes sense that when the stock market starts appreciating and my dollar's also appreciating in the back of that, to sell, to offload off my risk. Okay. To get ready for the upcoming events. They're hedging. They're trying to cover the risk. Okay. But remember, on my last video on the Japanese, they were saying that they're not going to start thinking about it until April. So I was saying we have until now, till April. But once April comes, it doesn't mean that's when they're going to do it, but that's when they're going to come back together and decide if they are or not. So from right now to April, the dollar is going to keep rising. And look, if this does play out how I am anticipating, you might be wondering, so what is the targets? What is the projections that I'm looking at? So if this does happen, where they intervene and it happens like last time when over $2 trillion got wiped from the market, I could see NASDAQ, S&P and all that. I could see NASDAQ going maybe to like 20K, to like 19K. Everything's going to pull back aggressively. But that is going to be another buying opportunity. Remember, the stock market has recovered 100% of every crash. Okay, so keep that in mind. It might be scary, it might be all that, but this is why I look at the VIX. This is why, if you look here, I have buy zones. These were previous zones where the VIX responded or had a strong reaction. And if you look at these times where the VIX had a strong reaction down, and you look at the S&P or the NASDAQ, those were lows. Okay, so just because this is happening, don't be too afraid. Look at it as a buying opportunity. You're now getting that buying opportunity that you are looking for. Okay. Moving over to crypto, I want to bring this to your attention. Circle Internet Group. This is also a crypto stock. It's not just a cryptocurrency. And I've been talking about this since January. If you've been watching my YouTube channel, this is me speaking about it. Look, I'm not gonna tell you guys what to buy, but the reason why I'm investing in this is because it's with stable coins, and the governments, and for them to do regulations and to make it more professional, I guess. Um, they need to get stable coin issuance, and they're not trying to use USDT no more because that's Chinese. You know what I mean? And these people are doing a lot of big partners. There's rumors they might buy out XRP. Who knows yet? But they have a lot of partnerships, and a lot of fund owners are picking up this stock. There's going to be a long-term play, guys. Remember, this is an investment play. You're not going to see, don't expect to see returns within months to maybe years. But I do believe this is going to be a solid. It's kind of like Coinbase. This is how I see it. They're one of the first ones. Only reason why Coinbase is around and doing well is because they were one of the first crypto stock companies, if that makes sense. Okay, so in that video, I was saying this is a long-term play, and my reasoning, my logic was because there's a lot of partnerships and also going in line with what Trump wants. Trump wants to start issuing stable coins, wants to be pretty much the stable coin issuance of the world, okay? And when you look at recently, when you look at their partnerships and you look at what they're doing, they have over 500 plus ecosystem partner. They have 500 plus institutional shareholders. They're just continuously getting more partnerships. More people are working with them. And the reason why I like this a lot is because there's a lot of usage to it. And remember, I was right here making videos and saying like, hey, like this is what I'm getting into. And also they are one of the first ones into the stock market. Like I said before, just like Coinbase. They are, obviously this isn't Coinbase because Coinbase is not a stable coin issuance, but if they are going to be one of the first ones to start implementing stable coins and working with everybody, then these articles right here, MasterCard agrees to buy stablecoins platforms, and PayPal, more companies are starting to get into the idea of getting into stablecoins and start using that as transactions. So who are they going to work with? Circle Internet Group, because they are the ones that have been partnering and getting the most fund ownerships. And I think the fund ownership has been getting higher and higher per week. With that being said, yeah, Circle is going to easily take its IPO. It's easily going to take its all-time high, maybe even more. Like I said, this is a long-term play for me. Moving to USDT. If this is going to play out with the Circle Internet Group, then eventually USDT is not going to work no more, and I'm sad, but hopefully there's going to be a chart similar to it. But USDT is now finally breaking lower. We finally had to break a structure. Now we're trading lower. We are now getting daily candle closes underneath the 50 EMA. So I'm anticipating us to maybe come recover some of this, but as long as we stay underneath the 50 EMA and the cloud, then I am projecting more downside. We have vector recoveries here, the area where I'm looking for the possible bounce, because at the end of the day, we are still in bullish structure. This is the area I am expecting a bounce right here. Okay, so I am anticipating that we're not going to see a huge bounce on USDT until we get down here and then move out of here. Okay, so to make a long story short, I am anticipating crypto to continue on its rally. Okay. Moving to Bitcoin, you might be wondering what's up with these EMAs, because if you're looking at my previous videos, I haven't had these EMAs on my chart. I use many tools when I trade and project, and the reason why I wasn't using the EMAs here is because it didn't matter. I know that the 50 and we were all not close to the EMAs pretty much, so that's why sometimes my chart might look different. But to make a long story short, we are finally breaking out of the 50 EMA. We are closing above the 50. We are closing above this range high. So now let's take this out. We don't need this anymore. And you might be wondering, why am I not anticipating here? Because right here we had a 50 EMA, we closed above the 50 EMA, continue to close above, but we went straight down. And the reason why I think this time is different is because look where the 200 and the 800 EMA are at. We are close to it. We expanded away from the EMAs. So now this, and if this is going to be a death cross, usually when the death cross already happens on the chart, it doesn't mean that it's going to now dump down. So let's say Bitcoin starts trading up here and the death cross happens. It doesn't mean that from here we're going to start dumping down. It means that this already played out. So this was the death cross theoretically, okay? So that is why here in this range, when we got above the 50, I wasn't anticipating, hey, we're gonna start going to all-time highs, because we are still close to the EMAs. When you trade the EMAs, it's a lot of kind of like mean reversion. If you know anything about mean reversion, then if you're gonna use that trading strategy with the EMAs, the best time when price is gonna mean revert is when the EMAs are far away from price. Okay, down here, and this is why if you follow my Twitter, I have my link below my Twitter and everything else. I made this post on February 26th. February 26th was right here, and I said how everyone's gonna look waiting for BTC to drop sub 60K, because during that time everybody was anticipating that we were gonna take this wick out. We were gonna take this wick and continue lower, and everybody was waiting to buy down here. People were like, oh, we're anticipating one more drop and then I'm gonna start buying, and it didn't happen. And the reason why, one of the big factors was, number one, we were overextended to the downside, but to validate the overextension was that we were trading away from the EMAs aggressively. And yep, I'm pretty sure if nobody who was buying in those ranges, this is probably how you're looking right now. So with that being said, once we start trading out of here, we could go back to these vector recoveries. We could easily go to 80K, right? We're already at 74. We could easily go touch the 800 to the 200 EMA, right? So once we start trading out of here, you're gonna start to see the 50 EMA start to curve upward. You're gonna start to see a curve upward, okay? So once we touch these, obviously we're gonna get a pullback, start to get a continuation long, wait until price goes back to the 50 and see if it's gonna find support. If it starts closing underneath and away from the clouds, then we're not finding support no more, okay? For Solana and ETH, all the cryptocurrencies are gonna look the same, at least the top three. But the really good sign about Solana and ETH is that we are now breaking the 50 with a vector. Even ETH is doing it also. ETH is also doing it. So, and this is actually one of my strategies on confirmation. If you go into my course, if you go to my YouTube, this is my course. Then if you scroll down into the description, if you want to learn more about the first green vector above the 50 or breaking the 50, the strategy, it's in my confirmation. So just click on the confirmation and I'm gonna start going over how that is one of my confluences to enter, okay? This is one of the strategies I use, all right? But back to Solana, same thing. We are getting the confirmation, a strong close in the 50, a green vector. Again, as long as we stay above or inside the EMA cloud and the 50, then you could target this vector recovery to 122 to where the EMAs are at. Look, we already had the death cross, and the death cross was this move, right? So we are anticipating a mean reversion back to the EMAs, right? Same thing over here. Bitcoin that was where I was saying, like, I wasn't anticipating for this when we start getting above the EMAs that we were going to go higher, because we were close to the EMAs. We're not far away like we are here, okay? Same thing with ETH. Go over to ETH. Same thing. Staying above the 50 EMA, you can anticipate we're going to go back to the 200 and 800 EMA, right? Which is going to be 2.8K. And for Solana, I'm anticipating at least, 124, 125, bare minimum. One good thing about Solana that I do like on the daily, we do have this mini order block that if we do get that pullback, because remember, things don't go up in a straight line. If we start rejecting out of here, you see, like, if we start consolidating here, this would be my next buy zone. My previous video, I was talking about Fartcoin and I was going to get into it, and it's doing great. It's doing amazing. Thanks to in the Crypto Legends group, a legend inside this group, I'm always showing my credit, was giving me a recommendation that he wanted to see Fartcoin. And when we finally had that confirmation, this is what I said. If you watch my previous video, when I talked about Fartcoin, if we get that daily close above the range, it will confirm a daily SFP. If so, you can easily find continuation longs. So now on Fartcoin, if you're going to continue on this trade, let's see how Fartcoin is looking. Boom. Oops. Completely just blew out of there. So this is what I was talking about. On my previous video, I was talking about how this was the low that made the all-time high. Down, and then it made the all-time high. This low, we went right back into it. Price tapped it, right? And if you remember what I was saying in that video, my best entry model is a SFP break of structure, right? So not only did we tap it, we had an SFP, but also we had a W formation break. So now we're waiting for the retrace continuation. So now if you're going to be in this trade, if you didn't take it, you have to wait for a retrace. And a good way to look for retraces when we are obviously in an uptrend is go down to the 4-hour and look for the 50 EMA, sorry. As the candles start developing, the 50 EMA is going to keep going up, and once price starts going to the 50, then you can start looking to build longs because we are rise, retrace, continuation. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, you could go long here if you're gonna. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that is one way to look for a continuation long. One thing I want to show you guys is we have a strong green vector close at the 50. We are breaking the 50 with the green vector. Go back to my course, go into that segment of confirmation where I go over this confluence on how to enter, okay? And eventually, guys, I'm gonna redo my course because that was my first video ever that I uploaded, and I say a lot of you know, I'm getting better at this, right? So bear with me. But yeah, strong break. So now we are anticipating the retrace continuation, okay? With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was very informative. So for the stocks, commodities, and oil, all that good stuff, as long as the war continues, inflation is going to keep going up, which in turn means the Fed is not going to cut, maybe even raise interest rates. We even saw in the Fed Watch, they added a new column saying, even though it's 1%, but the fact that they added it, it could keep getting higher. That also is just telling you shit is just getting worse. It's not getting better. So if the interest rate's going to keep getting higher or staying or raised, that means the stock market and everything else, high risk assets, as like your tech, stuff like that, it's going to start pulling back, which is fine, guys. We need a contractionary phase. And the Japanese are not going to be able to withstand these, the dollar at this price. So more than likely might be a forex intervention, but they are for sure going to raise their interest rates. And last time when the Japanese raised their interest rates, $2 trillion got wiped, okay? And if that's happening, then it makes sense why the dollar is going to continue going higher, and big money investors are going to start offloading off their risk because they're going to get more purchasing power on their dollar when they sell their stocks while the dollar's also raising in price, okay? Raising in value, I mean. And for crypto, look guys, like I said in my previous video, there's times where crypto can decouple from the stock market for a short amount of time and start pumping much harder than the stock market, okay? But at the end of the day, guys, this does not mean I am anticipating all-time highs. I am still expecting Bitcoin to make another low before we reach all-time highs, okay? But for the short term, short to medium term, I am expecting a rally, okay? So again, get that 50 EMA on the chart, wait for the retrace back to the 50 on the 4-hour, and start building your longs for the continuation. If we start closing underneath the 50 on the daily and start trading away from the cloud, then it's not looking good. More than likely, we're going to start to trade lower to make that new low, okay? So with that being said, make sure you go into my link in my bio and follow my Discord. And one thing about my Discord, let me show you real quick. I'm not as active there because I don't have a lot of people, but I will say once I reach 50 people on my Discord, I think right now I have 16, I'm gonna start posting there every single day, doing personal lives. And right now I do have this offer right here where you could direct message me and we could do a one-on-one call where we could talk about anything, stocks, commodities, how to read the macros, whatever you want, until we reach that 50. Actually, until we reach that 100 people, you could take advantage of this, all right? And make sure you follow my Twitter, go into my YouTube, all that good stuff, all right? So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was informative. I hope you guys are now well informed to see what to expect for the future. So other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one.